Hello everyone, Ronnix with it another tutorial, and in this tutorial today we're going to be doing skin retouching for outdoor images. I know I've been doing skin retouching tutorials about indoor images, and this tutorial basically is how to do your skin retouching on your outdoor images, on your outdoor portraits in just Photoshop. And we're going to be learning each and every step about skin retouching as usual, because I feel like I should be dropping more of these full tutorials, because I want to impact someone out there. I want to upgrade someone out there who is trying to learn about skin retouching or color grading or everything about skin retouching. So even a beginner and professional can be able to follow along these tutorials or this series of masterclass and beginner tutorials. So let's dive in and we learn about how to edit your outdoor portraits in Photoshop. So usually to open your images, you know what to do. You can, for older versions, you can just double click or double tap on the interface of Photoshop, or you can just come to file and open file, like in Photoshop I mean. Then for this version I'm just going to click open, and I'm going to look for the folder where my image is. So basically I'm just going to look for it in this specific folder. So I'm just going to scroll down and I look for the image you're going to be retouching in this very tutorial. And let me just get it in a bit, because I don't want to take a long time looking for this specific image. So this is the image we're going to be retouching. So after you have selected it, I'm going to click open, like to open the image into our Photoshop. And as you can see, I had already retouched this image before, so I feel like I'm going to reset each and everything I did for retouching of this very image. So I feel like I'm going to have to reset everything I did for retouching on this very image. So that is basically what I'm going to do. So I'm going to come right here and I'm going to reset everything I did for the processing of the raw image. So you can see this is a raw image, and this is how the image was shot. So for those who shoot in raw, this is where you have to pay maximum attention. First of all, it depends on the amount of colors or how you set your images. Usually I've been advising you guys, first of all, choose the right color profile for your cameras, but for this case I feel like the colors are enough for me. So I'm just going to be doing basic adjustments for this very image. So usually I prefer to knock down the highlights in the image and also knock down the whites like that. Then I prefer to pump in my shadows a bit, and I'm going to knock up my shadows. So I'm going to also pump up my contrast to around 5. Then I'm going to reduce on the amount of tint in this image. I'm just going to reduce it to around let's go with -1, because we are going to be able to reduce on these warm tones in this image later on. And before we can proceed, these are settings I used for this image. I shot it at ISO 250 using an 85mm on a Canon 6D camera and f5.6, and the shutter speed was 1/1000th of a second. That is what I used, because this time right here was around 1 p.m. and the sun was right overhead, so we had to look for a shade at the beach to take this portrait. So I'm just going to come and I'm going to hit open to open the image into Photoshop. So it's going to take a few seconds and the image is going to open. So this is the image we are going to be retouching for this very tutorial. So first of all, I prefer to crop images first before I can do any skin retouching on them. So I'm just going to come right here, and this is the crop tool. I prefer to crop the images in a ratio of 4:5. So this is the ratio we have to choose, because I'm going to post this image on Instagram, and I would love it to occupy the whole screen on Instagram when it is posted. So when you drag these corners, you can get the right crop ratio for the image, like how you prefer to crop the image. So after you have done so, hit the enter key and your image is going to be cropped. So we are going to be learning about, first of all, how to remove your blemishes from your images in Photoshop. And this model really has a nice skin. So what you're going to be doing, we are going to first of all remove the blemishes in this image before we can do the skin retouching. And let's first of all clean up the image. Remember, blemish removal contributes over 70% to your overall skin retouching. So you're just going to come right here and we create a new layer, a new blank layer. Then what you're going to be doing, you're going to select our spot healing brush tool. So you can right click and look for your spot healing brush tool. So that is the spot healing brush tool, because you want to clean the blemishes or remove them using a very fast way, because we don't want to delay on this specific tutorial, and the model really doesn't have so many blemishes. So after you have selected this, make sure you're on your layer 1, or you can rename this layer blemishes like this. So hit enter. Then after you have done so, make sure the type is content aware and the mode is normal like that. Then make sure sample all layers is marked or selected. So make sure you check this box right here. So after you have done so, just zoom in and look for your blemishes. So basically you're just going to have to paint over the blemishes to eliminate them from your portraits. So let's do this quick, because we don't want to take the whole day trying to do the blemish removal, and since there are very few in this image and the model really had really beautiful skin, you shouldn't mind or worry. This is going to take a short while. So this is basically how I do retouch my outdoor images in just Photoshop. So let's remove these blemishes. So basically we are just cleaning up the blemishes from the model's face. So you can really take your time while doing the blemish removal, because this is going to determine the overall retouched image at the end of the day. So just clean up like that. So you don't want to take the whole day removing blemishes, and I wouldn't love to do that, because you guys are going to get bored and the audience retention is going to be quite low. So I think we're done removing blemishes. So let's clean up right there. So we are done removing the blemishes from this very image. So you can see the before and after. It is not too much work done. So we are going to merge these two layers by first of all selecting both layers. Make sure they are selected, or even if they are not selected, you can easily come right here to layer, then you scroll all the way down and you click on merge visible. So they are going to be merged, or you can just hit shift Ctrl E on the keyboard to merge the layers, or shift Command E to merge the layers. So what we are going to be doing, we are going to learn about skin retouching in Photoshop. So basically skin retouching is all about blending or evening out the skin tones in the images to have those nice and smooth transitions in the skin tone. So basically that is all we have to know about skin retouching. And in this case we are going to be learning about frequency separation. So what is frequency separation? Frequency separation is basically a skin retouching technique whereby we divide the image into two. We get the low frequencies in the image and we put them on one layer, and we get the high frequencies in the image and we put them on like a different layer. So basically that is what we do, and when you join the two layers you have to be able to come out with this very image that we had initially before. So there shouldn't be any difference at all. Then we are going first of all create those two layers by hitting Ctrl or Command J on the keyboard twice to create those two layers, or you can just drag and drop on this new layer icon to create a new layer. So I'm going to delete that. So remember, even on our skins, the skin tones are usually beneath the textures. So the textures are more protruding, or they pop out more than the skin tones or the colors on our faces. So we have to put this right below. So we are just going to name this a low frequency, like that. I'm going to abbreviate that, and you're going to rename this layer. You're going to rename it high frequency, like this. So after we have done so, we are going to come right here, and we are going to deactivate the high frequency layer. Then select the low frequency layer, and we are going to remove the we are going to remove the textures from the low frequency layer. Remember, the low frequency layer is going to contain only the colors or the skin tones in the image, meaning we are going to subtract the textures from this very layer, and we hide them somewhere so that we can steal them from that place we have hidden them to put them in the high frequency layer. So we want to only remain with the colors or the skin tones for this very layer. So you're just going to come right here to filter, then you're going to come to blur, and you're going to come to Gaussian blur. So this is where the magic is going to take place. So you get this dialog box, and in order to blur out the textures, you have to zoom out by using the zoom out tool, and look for the area that seems to have more textures than the rest of the skin. Then move this slider, as you're noticing right here, and the overall image until you lose out on the textures and you remain with only the colors. But make sure as you're doing this, you should also notice or still notice the facial structures. So you shouldn't take it all the way overboard. So you're going to move this until, I think, let's go with 10. So at 10 we have lost out on the textures in the image, so you're just going to hit OK. And after we have done so, you're going to come and select the high frequency layer and click on the eye icon to activate it or make it visible. And you're going to, now we only want to remain with the textures in the high frequency layer since they are contained in the high frequency layer. Remember, we hid them after stealing them from the low frequency layer, so we just want to subtract them or extract them from the place where we hid them. So after selecting the high frequency layer, just come right here to image like that and come to apply image. So I know you may not be having all this the way it is right now, because your blending mode may be way different. Your image may look like this, so I'm just trying to mimic it because I don't know how to reset it basically, but I'm going to explain everything so that you understand it in a brief or in a short while. So remember, we are going to subtract the textures from the low frequency layer. So it's like the low frequency layer has a store where it hid our textures. So come right here and select the low frequency layer, then come to the blending mode and look for subtract. Remember, we want to subtract the textures from the store of the low frequency layer. That's why you have selected the low frequency layer, which is more of like a store, and the blending mode, we are subtracting or stealing the textures from that low frequency layer. Make sure the opacity is 100%. Yeah, the scale is 2 and offset 128 because we want to get a 50% gray of the 256 colors. So we want to get half of the 256 colors in the RGB. That's why you have 2 and 128 right here. So you divide 256 by 2, you get 128. Make sure your preview is on and hit OK. And after you have done so, come to the blending mode and change it from normal and look for linear light. So you're just going to look for linear light, and when you click on it, your image is going to come and look like it is meant to be. So we want to put these two in a group. Select both by hitting command and clicking on both layers, command or control, and just drag them to this group icon, put them in a group. So you're going to name that group frequency separation, like that. So after doing so, you're going to open this group, and before you can do that, let's turn this on and off to see if at all there is a difference between the original image and the frequency separation group. So there is no difference at all. So what we're going to be doing basically, we're just going to open this frequency separation group, and remember, we just want to blend the skin tones, and in order to blend them, here I'm going to share with you guys a very nice and simple technique of blending those skin tones and evening them out. Come right here and open the group of your frequency partition, select the high frequency layer, come the adjustments and click on black and white. So here you cannot see where the skin tones are transitioning quite well, and in order to see where they are transitioning really well or quite well, come under the reds right here and drop down or reduce, move this slider towards the left, and here you'll notice the uneven skin tone transitions in the image. So come right here and close this. So you always have to make sure you turn off your caps key in order to see your maybe selected tools in Photoshop. You can see it is showing this kind of cross, and in order to get back the tool we were using initially before, hit the caps key to get back the tool you are using or you had selected before. So after doing so, come and select your low frequency layer and come under the brushes and look for your mixer brush tool. So you can just right click and look for your mixer brush tool. After doing so, you have to set the mixer brush tool so that you get the right settings and retain as much as natural skin textures in your image as possible. So make sure you come and make sure it is a clean brush. Then you have two options right here. Select the second option. The reason for selecting this second option is because we want Photoshop to automatically clean the brush for us every time we are trying to blend the transitions of the skin tones. Yeah, I hope you guys are understanding that. Then make sure your wetness is 8% or between 9 and 2%, depending on the kind of retouching you're going in for. But for this case, I want you guys to see the differences we are going to be making on the image. The load we are going to be using 75% because we want a quite reasonable load, a mixed 90 because we want to blend these not to 100%, just want it to be really enough and not too much. Make sure your flow is at 100% and make sure sample all layers is not marked or selected, because we only want to work on the low frequency layer and you don't want to sample textures from the high frequency layer. So make sure you don't check or mark this area. After doing so, just zoom in a little bit and come right there and just blend the skin tones. And when you're doing so, blend the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone to give the image a nice transition. So make sure you mix the midtones. We have some kind of shadows here. We're just going to blend them alone. I hope you guys are seeing what I'm doing. So we're just going to blend those areas like that. You can see I'm just blending these areas. We have shadows right there. So I'm just going to come right here and you're just going to blend them. Then we have some kind of midtones right here in the middle. You're just going to blend there, and make sure you don't overblend a particular area for a long time, because you're going to be doubling the wetness effect on that particular area. So if at all I paint here twice, it is going to convert this from 8 to 16, and wouldn't want that. So just blend slightly, because I'm going to be sharing with you guys the second method I usually use to get more fine images or results from my images or my retouching processes. So just do that. You're basically blending the areas we are seeing having those harsh transitions within the skin tones. So let's see a before and after. So turn this off and see, that's the before after. Subtle, right? But it is really nice. So turn this back on. You can as well work without the black and white layer and just come and paint over to blend those shadows right there. Then come right the highlight right here and just blend it. So basically that is what we are doing using the mixer brush tool. And you have to stay tuned, because we are going to transition these skin tones even better, or in a more better way. So you can zoom out and just continue blending all the other areas. So most retouchers tend to forget these other areas. Remember, these other areas are also part of the image, so you shouldn't only retouch the face and you call it a day. Just do the retouching on the overall image basically. And usually I prefer to use the mixer brush tool on the hands and the chest area because I'm not going to refine these areas, and I want the areas to have as natural skin textures as possible in this very image. Remember, when you use the second method, it's going to cause unnatural skin textures in the image, and we wouldn't want that to happen on the images. So let's do that, and I think we are done blending the skin tones using the mixer brush tool. So let's turn this off and see. That's the before after. You can see what we have just done using the mixer brush tool. You're just going to come and you're going to delete the black and white layer because we no longer need it right now. Then you're going to come right here and select the lasso tool. So this is where we are going to blend the skin tones even more to get more nice results. Make sure feathering is at 23 pixels because we want really fine or refined selections when we select the skin area where we are going to refine the skin tones. Make sure you're still on the low frequency layer. Zoom in. Yeah, here now you have to zoom in to get really nice selections and start drawing. Make sure you draw only on the skin and you keep away from the boundaries or the edges of the eyebrows, maybe hair and maybe clothing. So make sure you only select on the skin like that. So after you have done so, come to filter and come to blur and hit Gaussian blur. Then you have to move this until you feel like you have the best textures in your image. So you're just going to go with 30.3. You can zoom out and see how your image is going to be looking. Yeah, 30.3 looks really pretty good. Hit OK. So we want to apply this on the rest of the image to refine the skin tones or the transitions in the skin tones. So make those selections. You can simply right click and apply the Gaussian blur like that and come and make a new selection. So every time you're making a new selection, it is automatically going to deselect that particular area you had recently selected. So just come and do that and select new areas like that and right click and hit Gaussian blur. And if at all you feel the effect is way too much for your liking, you can come and hit Shift Ctrl F or Shift Command F to reduce on the opacity of that effect on that particular area. So let's continue putting this on the nose area too. You can see the shapes are making. You can see, like we did for a mixer brush tool, we used it while we were following the way light is falling on a particular area. So that is what we are just trying to mimic or follow for this very step. So just make those tiny but effective selections. You can see the image is really getting transformed to look really this nice and beautiful. So I told you guys I'm going to only apply that on only the face of the model, because if I applied it on the rest of the image, it's going to give me a plastic kind of image, and we wouldn't want that for this portrait. So you're just going to come and you're going to close that. You can see the before and after for the frequency separation. So right now you're going to be doing the dodging and burning, and we're going to use the way of drawing lines to do the dodging and burning. So basically, what is dodging and burning? Dodging and burning is more of enhancing the highlights or the shadows in the image. It is more of contouring the image, and for this case, you're going to be using dodging and burning by just drawing lines in Photoshop. We're going to be using curves, but we're just going to be using the method of drawing lines to enhance the dimensions or the shapes of the image. Remember, it has been flattened, especially using frequency separation. So we want to gain back the beautiful shape in the image. So we're going to come right here under curves, select curves like that. First of all, make a point and brighten the image. Make sure it is overexposed and you can still notice the outlines. Close this, make sure the mask is selected, hit Ctrl or Command I to hide the effect. So remember, when we are brightening we'll be dodging, and when we are darkening we'll be burning. So we are going to name that dodge, like that, and we're going to come right here and we're going to create a second one, a second curves adjustment, make a point, and now darken. Like, you can take it down like that. Make sure your mask is selected, hit Ctrl I or Command I for mark to hide the effect. So you can name that burn, like that. So you're going to put these two in a group. So before you can even put them in, okay, let's first put them in a group. Hit Ctrl or Command G after selecting both layers, and you can name that dodge and burn, like that. So we can open this group by clicking on the drop down icon. So we can now start dodging. Remember, you have first of all make sure white is on the foreground, like this. Make sure white is on top. You have white and black right here, because this is going to determine on the painting of your brush. So make sure you have white and black. In order to reset, you have to click on this icon, and to get white on top you can hit X on the keyboard to toggle between the two colors. So make sure white is on top. So come right here under the dodge. Remember, we want to enhance the highlights in the image first. Come and select your normal brush tool. So after it has been selected, make sure it is a normal soft round brush. Opacity 100, flow 100, smoothing is at 0%. So we don't want to smoothen the image, so zoom in slightly. I think that is a reasonable zoom. So we are going to start painting on the areas we want to dodge for this very image by just drawing lines. So we have the highlights, we have highlights here, we're just going to draw there. Then we have a highlight there, we have a highlight right there, then on the chin area, and maybe we have a highlight on the forehead of the model. Right here we have a highlight. You can just zoom down like that. So basically we are now dodging the image by just drawing lines on the areas we have highlights at. So I think that is fine. And after we have done so, make sure the mask is selected and come to window and look for properties. Then we are going to come right here, make sure density is 100. We are going to come to feather, and we are just going to start moving this, the feathering, until they start to disappear and blend into the skin of the model, like that. So you're just going to move. I think that looks pretty good. You can see the before and after. We have just brightened those particular areas. We're going to come and close that. And if at all you feel it is affecting the color in the image, come and change the blending mode from normal and change it to luminosity so that it doesn't affect the colors in the image. Come and select the burn and just start drawing lines on the areas with shadows, like that. So we have shadows right here, then right here on the forehead, just going to draw, then right on the nose area, just going to draw those lines. So you can basically come and draw everywhere the shadows are. And now make sure that it is selected, and we're going to do the same thing, window, and we're going to come right here to properties, and we're going to increase the feathering to blend it even more into the image, like that. Like that. You can see the before and after, before, after. So you can close this and change the blending from normal to luminosity so that the colors in the image are not affected. So after you have done so, we are now done doing the dodging and burning for this image, or sculpting this very image. You can see a before, after, before, after. It really has shape or dimension right now. So what we would like to do, we would like to do a little bit of color grading. And to do that, we just want to enhance the darks or the blacks in the image. We're going to come right here and we're going to click on selective color, come under the blacks, and we're going to just intensify on the blacks to add more detail in the blacks in the image, like that. Then if at all you feel your image is really too warm, we're going to come right here and we're going to hit on photo filter, and we're going to select cooling 82 to cool up this image. You can as well reduce on the density of that effect, or you can simply close this and come to the opacity and just reduce on the opacity of the cooling filter like that. So you can see the before and after. I think this looks beautiful. So we'd like to do one more thing, that is the eye and teeth whitening for this image to give it a more professional kind of look. So we are going to put the color grading in a group by selecting both layers and hitting Ctrl or Command G to group them. So we can simply name this color grade like that. Then we can see the before and after for the color grading. It is just simple and subtle. So we want to create a stamp visible layer for all we have done by hitting Shift alternate Control E on the keyboard, or Shift alternate Command E on the keyboard to create a stamp visible layer of all we have done. And we are going to duplicate that because we need backup by hitting Control or Command J on the keyboard. You're going to come to camera raw filter, filter, come to camera raw filter, and you're going to open it. First of all, select your adjustment brush tool, or you can just hit K on the keyboard. And before you can hit or select the adjustment brush tool, you can first of all zoom into the eyes of the model. Let's first of all zoom into the image by hitting Command C or Control plus or Control minus to zoom in or zoom out the image. I hope you understand that. So let's zoom out. So hold down the space key to drag or move the image all around the screen. So Command plus to zoom into, because we want to have more emphasis on the eyes and teeth. You can see we have them right now. Get your adjustment brush tool. Remember, we want to remove color from the white area of the eye, so we're just going to knock this down to around 27, and we are just going to increase the tint because we want that kind of unnatural redness in the eyes. Then we want to intensify the highlights to 5, the whites at 3. Let's go with saturation of around negative. Let's go with negative 66, and just come and paint over the white area. Remember, you only paint over the white area because when you paint over the skin, it is going to desaturate or remove color from the skin area. So you just want to paint over the white area of the eye. So hit the space back key and move around to the teeth, and you can just come and just paint over the teeth of our model like that. I hope you guys are learning something, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you're finding this tutorial really nice and helpful for your photography or retouching. And don't forget to give me feedback about what you love about this very tutorial. I think you are done doing the eye and teeth whitening for this very image, so you can just come and hit OK to approve the settings. You can see a before and after, and if at all you felt like this is too much for your liking, you can come and reduce on the opacity of the eye and teeth whitening. So basically this is what we have done so far. So right now we would like to save the image. You can see first of all we did the skin retouching using frequency separation. That's the image before after. And now we did the dodging and burning, so to add shape or dimension to the image. Then we did the color grading, you can see before and after. We created the stamp visible layer, and we also did the eye and teeth whitening. So right now we would like to learn about how to save images in Photoshop. And in order to save the images in Photoshop, we are going to export the image so that we embed the colors in this very image, so that when we post it anywhere, maybe on social media or use another device, it doesn't change color. And in order to do that, we're just going to simply come to File, and you're going to come to Export and hit Export As. So when you hit export as, it is going to bring up this little box right here, and under this I usually don't play around with the canvas size or anything like that. I first of all come to the format and hit JPEG. Quality, I make sure it is 100% to the maximum. Then I come and select these two options. Yeah, convert to sRGB, and also I have to embed the color profile in the image because I want to embed all the colors Photoshop has put into this image. Then after doing so, I'm going to hit export. So after doing so, you can as well maybe rename the image maybe to outdoor, and store it in a given folder you'd like to save your image, and hit the save key, and your image is going to be saved in Photoshop. So basically this is how you do edit or retouch your outdoor images in Photoshop. And we have learned so many things: frequency separation, dodging and burning, color grading, eye and teeth whitening. And if at all you love this tutorial, don't forget to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I do post or premiere a new video on this channel. And don't forget to comment in the comment section. I'm Ronnix from Ronnix Photography. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in yet another retouching tutorial on this channel. And don't forget to keep practicing and keep creating.